The following program contains mature language and spoilers. Listener discretion advised.
I read some article recently where they were talking about that too. Like they were ranking superheroes and they're like Thor with Odin Force.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
dumb.
like, come on. Odin Force is stupid. They should just, he has magic. That's it. You know what I mean?
Well, didn't
Odin Force sounds like a crazy ass like metal band or something.
from the Netherlands
Odin Force.
with our song Thor, Thor, Thor.
This is written for my mother. Love you, mother. This is written for my dearly beloved uncle who passed away, a fortnight ago from some sort of cancer. I love you, Uncle Bobby. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
See, fairly.
Thank you. This has been Odin Force. Please stop by merch booth.
That was good. That was a good one, Mac.
After all this time, now you come to visit me, brother. Why? To mock.
I need your help. But I wish I could trust you.
If you did, you'd be the fool I always took you for.
Some believe that before the universe, there was nothing. They're wrong. There was darkness, and it has survived.
What's gonna happen?
I gave you my word. I would return for you.
Face an enemy, known only to a few.
Known only to one.
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help.
If we do nothing, they will destroy us.
You even think about betraying him?
I'll kill you. That was from New York.
I like her.
Thor, your bravery will not ease your pain. Your family, your world will be extinguished.
We're running out of time.
The very fabric of reality will be torn apart.
I'll find a way to save us all.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Marvel Superheroes Podcast. I'm the Legal Machine. With me is
Diabolu Frank.
Senor Fixit.
Fry hole.
Got the foursome. Doesn't happen very often, right? And live to boot. So happy to have it.
And we all came from all parts of the city to talk about
Thor, the Dark World, 10th Anniversary Ultimate Edition. And pretty much all things Thor, because we've unlocked the achievement. We finally circled all the way around from when we started the podcast to near to where we're not in the podcast mind, but we're closing the circle of the MCU in particular. Next year, we'll finish out the movies that we didn't get to talk about before we started the podcast with Guardians of the Galaxy. So now we've all seen all the Thor things, except that's not really the truth at all. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We'll deal with that later on. For now, what I want to do is talk about Thor, the Dark World on the 10th anniversary and what we thought of this movie.
When was the last time you saw Thor the Dark World, Mr. Fixit?
In the theaters.
You haven't seen it since the theaters?
No,
There's no way that's true.
No. Oh, no. I did watch it again after they did the Avengers Endgame, and I wanted to see, oh, wait, does some of that match up with the movie? And I think I rewatched it then. But I remember seeing it in the theater and like being very not impressed at all.
I think it was you and most people that saw it in the theater. I haven't
that was one of the. Yeah, no, that movie was panned pretty hard.
No, but didn't we see it together?
We might have seen it together.
Yeah, I think we saw it together.
I don't remember seeing this movie. I saw the movie, but I don't really remember.
I rewatched it right before our last Thor podcast that we were all together for, and I had flip-flopped on it because when I first saw the original Thor, I didn't like it, and when I saw The Dark World, I really liked it. Now, about a year, maybe 2 years ago, we got together for that other Thor podcast, and I rewatched the first three because the fourth one wasn't out yet.
Right.
Totally flip-flopped and really enjoyed the first one. Thought the second one was hot garbage, and of course the third one is the best one. So
yeah, I think literally when we recorded on the first Thor, you told us that your favorite was The Dark World, and so 180 for sure.
yeah. I that's just one of those movies that changes. I don't know.
And I think we've done multiple lists, so I've gone through the MCU and watched many a times.
Too many times, I'm right.
And I think, I've said it on many of these podcasts. I think Thor: Dark World kind of gets a bad rap. It's not nearly as bad. People talk about especially now that a lot of these newer MCU movies are complete dog shit, bro. It's not the worst MCU movie anymore. It's just not.
I thought it had some good ideas in it.
Oh, it is not anymore.
Really
not after fucking Thunder and Kiss and Thunder, whatever that fucking thing.
I think part of
Quantumania and all these Ant-Man and Wasp. These are just super shitty, way shittier movies.
I would argue that when it came out, it was the worst MCU movie because the MCU was pretty damn good up to that point.
Yeah.
And I'm a big defender of the Incredible Hulk. I know you guys aren't as into it, but I'm a fan of that one. I think that was really good. So when I saw Dark World, it felt, especially right after Iron Man 3, because I was not impressed with Iron Man 3 either. But at least that had Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle and Rebecca Hall and Gwyneth Paltrow. This one did. And especially you got Chris Eccleston as the villain, and I'm enthused about that. I've been a fan of Chris Eccleston since Shallow Grave back in the mid-90s, and he speaks in a foreign dialect the entire movie, and he's wearing makeup the entire time with the fake chest piece, so he's completely buried, and they wasted what would have been a great villainous actor on this movie. So I was really enthused about that.
The first movie nailed the Destroyer.
The Destroyer's always so good. Yes.
Nailed the Destroyer. Like complete. It's an absolute carbon
I
copy from the
remember
comic books, right?
we talked about this one.
Whereas Curse looks like Predator. Whereas Curse looks insane in the Simonson stuff from the Dark
cool,
Elf stuff.
yeah.
And in this movie, it's like, that's Curse? That's supposed to be. He looks like
big dumb monster guy.
Yeah, he looks like a random Lord of the Rings guy.
He didn't have the freaking crown of thorns like Christ.
Yet,
It's like, holy, yeah. No,
yet I thought the Dark Elves were fantastic. I thought that they
were creepy looking.
I think they were creepy looking, but I think the problem is because they were uniform, it kind of looked like they went to one of the Halloween stores, just bought all their elf masks, and it had the little mesh eyes. They all had the mesh eye pieces, and they didn't really disguise that all that well. So they looked like a bunch of guys trying to freak, like Purge or something. Like somebody went to a store and bought all those masks, and that bothered me. And they talk about how they differentiated their uniform, but if the masks are all the same, I'm looking at their masks more than I'm looking at the uniforms. So
yeah, and like the ether's weird, right? Especially when you watched it before it becomes like an Infinity Stone and stuff. It's just like a weird mist that goes into her and everything, and it's just sort of like, I don't really get this.
I do like the floating effect though. I thought that looked cool, when she's just like floating in space and it's all around her and stuff. That had like kind of a Jean Grey thing going on there.
But I think all in all, I think it's funnier than people think that like all the Thor movies were like really serious up until Ragnarok, and that's just not true. The first movie's got some really funny, goofy
the
bits.
The first movie really beat it.
Where they back into him in the parking lot, like my wife loses it every time. She knows it's coming. Where they go to leave and they put it in reverse, and he's escaped from the hospital, and they just back into him every time. She knows it's coming. She can't not laugh at it. It's fucking hilarious. So that movie's got a bunch of funny stuff. The second one's got a bunch of funny stuff in it. Obviously, Ragnarok goes like off the rails, silly, but it's kind of a funny movie. But yeah, like the main villain's lame, but nobody's disputing that. But that happens a lot in these movies. So I've always felt that it was not like, I'm not saying it's underrated. I think it's overhated. And it's just not that bad.
I think one of the biggest haters is that actor himself.
Oh, Chris Hemsworth didn't like that movie.
No, not Chris.
Eccleston, right?
Oh, Eccleston.
Yeah, he like shit all over that movie.
I hadn't read. What did he say?
Furious at everything to do with it. He's like blasted.
Yeah.
Says he'll never go on another Marvel movie, and said he was treated bad. The makeup was bad. The story was bad. He said that they cut like half of his lines. So
that sounds.
And I mean, obviously, the dude can act. We rewatched his season of Doctor Who for like the 50th time.
My favorite Doctor. I'm not a huge Doctor Who guy, but I've watched enough Doctors that he's easily my favorite Doctor. Sure.
He's pretty good. Yep.
Who's your favorite Doctor?
My favorite Doctor, it's got to be the one right after him.
You like David Tennant? Very popular choice. This is a Marvel podcast. Correct answer is Strange, sir. No, it's okay. Yeah, but people like Tennant. I didn't finish Tennant's run.
The Purple Man.
My girlfriend, a friend of hers, convinced her to get into Doctor Who. So we got the first return season, and then we got the Tennant box set, and we never finished it. And before that, I'd watched some Matt Smith stuff at the recommendation of my father's. So those are the people I've been exposed to.
I've watched all the way up into Jodie. Jodie Whittaker? No,
Whittaker. There, you're right. My bad.
Who I really like as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
I watched about half of that season, and I know a lot of people quit because they said it was really woke. I just kind of had Doctor Who. I had watched so many. Mm-hmm. I needed a break. I'll go back and watch it again.
Even people who liked her term said that the scripts failed her time as the Doctor.
Yeah.
So it wasn't her fault. It wasn't about wokeism.
No, she's a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
So.
But it's not saying good things about the Dark World that we've gone into a Doctor Who conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get a chance to rewatch it.
Oh, you didn't rewatch it either?
No, I didn't get a chance to.
So I'm the only one of the four of us that rewatched the movie.
But we've all talked about it before.
I rewatched it before our last.
That was like 3 years ago, dude.
Okay.
Well. So you initially, we had this conversation a little bit during the last session where we were at his birthday party, Fixit's birthday party. You and I were talking.
Happy birthday.
I was really excited about the movie because from the trailers. You were really disappointed and not expecting a lot from the trailers. We watched the movies. I liked it the first time, even though I saw that it borrowed heavily from Superman 2. It's when I rented it out of a red box to watch it again that I was like, I don't really like this. And going forward, I wasn't really won over. So when I went to see The Dark World, it's because my girlfriend loves her some Tom Hiddleston and loves Loki, and she was insisting on seeing it. So I was getting dragged to that one. That was the first Marvel movie I had intended to intentionally skip. I didn't mean to skip The Incredible Hulk, just didn't work out. But I intended to skip Dark World. I got dragged into it. So having gone in there with a negative mindset, I was not very happy with the movie. You had a bad experience with the first Thor. It didn't meet your expectations the first time you saw it.
Yeah, for some reason, when I watched it in the theater, it had shaky camera. I distinctly remember that. But when I watched it on Disney Plus a couple of years back, it wasn't nearly as bad. And I'm like, dude, with all the shaky cam, I really like this movie.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like...
They applied a stabilizer. No,
the first Thor is a nice origin flick.
Yeah, they did a lot for what they had to work with money-wise, I think, too. But going into the second movie, going into The Dark World, before you became more critical of it, why did you like it so much? Because at one point in time, that was your favorite Thor movie.
Yes.
And I thought even after Ragnarok, it was your favorite Thor movie. No. Ragnarok replaced that firmly. Okay.
Yeah.
So Thor: The Dark World, though, you enjoyed it that first time. What was it about the first viewing that you liked so much more than the first viewing of Thor?
I'm thinking because the majority of my Marvel reading when I was younger was Thor, and it had branched off from Thor because of Asgard into the cosmic properties. But just seeing Malekith,
I think.
Malekith. Yeah. Malachi, Children of the Corn.
Right.
Outlander. Just seeing stuff like that. Yeah, just seeing like these smaller characters that he was big in the Thor book when like Simonson was writing him. But I mean, if you would have asked anybody who he was who wasn't a diehard comic reader, they'd have no idea who. You know, so seeing like the other realms on the screen, I think was a big like nostalgia kick for me.
And
it's back when Marvel movies were like, hey, what did they do in comic books, and then made a movie about it.
Yep.
And maybe they didn't nail it, but they were still sticking to the lore was still based on comic lore, not where are our movies taking us. Let's write a movie story.
There's been all this talk about where Marvel's gone wrong, and to date, nobody's mentioned when they disbanded the council of people that were like Joe Quesada and Brian Michael Bendis. They may not have been the people we wanted to be the comic book representing body. Mark Miller was in that, if I recall correctly. But at least there was somebody who had a sense of what was going on in the comic books with a hand on the wheel. And one of the things I hate about the modern Marvel movies, like Eternals and Shang-Chi, is there's open contempt for the source material and no fidelity to the source material whatsoever. So their expectation is whatever they came up with specifically for this movie, because Marvel asked them to come up with something, they're fucking geniuses and they're going to come up with, pull it out of their asshole and come up with something that's going to be as good as what, hundreds of comic books were published about. The fucking director of Shang-Chi and the star especially, I hate so fucking much now, because that book ran for 10 years. It only got canceled because, if I remember correctly, it was one of the books that were canceled because Jim Shooter wanted to clear space out on the schedule for New Universe so we could have a strong launch. It didn't work out that way. But that obviously had a story engine. This is a book that was successful and lasted for a decade when racism was even worse than it is now. You know, the material was strong enough that American audiences, probably largely white guys, bought that book for 10 years. So you can fix the things that you think are wrong with it. Don't mention a Sax Romer character if you don't want to, because definitely virulent anti-Asian racist. Sure. Don't mention Fu Manchu. Fine. Clear that stuff up. But keep enough of it so that it's at least recognizable. Where you've done just a whole different thing that's got nothing to do with anything that ever appeared in any comic book about this character. And as you say, I think one of the problems I had with the Dark World was that it doesn't look like Hearst. It doesn't act like Hearst. It doesn't look like Malekith. It doesn't act like Malekith. What is the either? You know, so I had this real tug of war where it's like, well, great, Jane Foster's back. Oh, but she's brought her dorky friend and her dorky friend's boyfriend. You know, stuff like that. Oh, they're really getting into the relationship between Loki and Frigga and Thor and Odin and all that kind of stuff. Oh, but we're also going to like have all these spaceships. Heimdall once again missing something, even though he's like got the all sight and all this kind of stuff. So that was the problem I had with this one, and even on second viewing, is there was stuff in there that I liked, and especially Frigga became much more important than I thought she was going to be. I thought they just fridged her and we were never going to talk about her again, and instead like Thor and Loki are like irrevocably changed by her death going forward. So it's like, okay, that did matter. That wasn't just, I mean, I don't think it mattered in the moment, but over the course of the story it does. So that's where the conflict is. There's stuff in there that I think is good and valuable. I'm glad they came back to Jane Foster. I'm glad that they tried to deepen the relationships, but also there's a bunch of stuff they fucked up, and it's just an aggressively middle movie. It's just, I don't think it's like, when you said it was your favorite, I was glad it was your favorite because you're a Thor guy, and at the time it came out, it was probably the best representation of Thor, so they made him a bit of a clown in the first movie. But at best, like, it's been at the bottom of the list for so long that you're giving it a little bit of credit just because it's not, doesn't deserve to be that far down, but it's really right there in the middle. It's not going to be anybody's absolute favorite, I don't think.
No, and I think what turned me away from it was I had reread some of the newer Thor stuff, which dealt a lot with Malekith, and which reminded me to go back and read the Simonson stuff.
Yeah.
And they kept the character the same in the comics from old school to new school. He's like the Joker, but like super evil. Like,
yeah, please elaborate.
I know the Joker's a killer and everything, but no, he's basically kind of a Joker ripoff.
Just tell us who like
eviler.
The first movie is grounded very much in Kirby era Thor. The second movie is much more Walt Simonson era. Tell us like those stories that inspired that movie. Tell us a little bit about those stories, like Malekith, like hers, all that material from the 80s. You remember the stories roughly? Like to summarize?
No.
You don't remember the stories that well?
Well, parts.
Okay. We're all getting old.
Yeah.
So you're telling us about Malekith. He's a Joker to a factor of 10.
Yeah. He's just
Cosmic Joker.
Cosmic Joker kind of. But
do you think maybe they thought there would be too much overlap if they played him like that with Loki, or no? Loki's not.
I honestly think it would have been
Loki very sarcastic, so that would have taken.
I think it would have been interesting to play Loki against Loki to a factor of 10. You know, like, oh, here's the really crazy motherfucker. Here's the really spooky motherfucker. Yeah. So no, I'm out like that. That would have been kind of cool. Plus, Loki was the most popular villain they'd had up to that point.
Mac's right though. I could almost guarantee you that they talked
that
about
came
that.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, well, we don't want him to outshine Tom Hiddleston, so why are we having two of the same character? I bet you they definitely had that talk.
And see, I could have seen that more if they hadn't brought Loki back for the second one. But like, because again, he got popular. That's one of the reasons why they brought him back. I don't know if they knew that Loki was going to be that big. I don't even know for sure if they knew that Loki was going to be in the Avengers at that point. You know, I know the Stinger's there to indicate that's going to happen, but who knows when they did the Stinger? I'm pretty sure that was Joss Whedon who directed the Stinger.
Could be.
So if they come back for a second Thor and they get a guy who's like broke Loki or fake Loki or annoying, obnoxious, over the top Loki, like I said, it'd be a problem. But since they brought Loki back, like it could actually be part of his redemption arc. Is like he gets a little bit more morose after his mom gets killed, and then there's like
suddenly it's not so funny anymore,
right? And then he's confronted with a worse Loki than he was. I think that could have been a more interesting movie. But also, I think Alan Taylor coming in late from Game of Thrones, I don't think the ha-ha is probably where he was coming at it from anyway. I do wonder though if maybe that's where Eccleston's extra stuff went to. Is maybe he was doing some maniacal stuff and they call that shit and made this total dour bastard.
I don't see that.
Yeah,
he was pretty stiff even in the stuff they kept. So
yeah, and I gotta say too, watching.
But I mean, think of that. He said half, and there was no one who has come out and refuted that they cut.
But Marvel doesn't usually respond to that stuff either. They just stop making you work. Like Idris Elba, bitch.
But like when Mickey Rourke got his shit cut, didn't they respond to that? Didn't you find out from?
Ricky Rourke was bitching about it on.
I know
Conan
Mickey Rourke was, but I think somebody confirmed that it was just like that wasn't the movie we were trying to tell.
Yeah.
I could have just.
I think Favreau might have done that at some point.
Did. We need the Malachi the Dark Elf Mickey Rourke cut.
Right. I want to see the Mickey Rourke
Put
cut.
all those scenes together.
Give me the Mickey Rourke cut. I'm down for that. One problem I had too is I had a desire to try to watch the Avengers movie to see how it compared, but I just didn't have the time or the energy for that. So I jumped straight from Thor to Thor 2, and that was fucking jarring. Because I mean, Thor ends with Loki drifting off into outer space, and the Bifrost has been destroyed, and Thor's trapped on Asgard, and blah blah blah. You get to the second movie, and it's like Loki's captured, and he's extra wily, and they're referring to all the stuff that happened to the Avengers, and Selvig's running around all crazy and shit. It's like, if you didn't see the Avengers, you were fucking lost. They did not give a fuck about you if you did not watch the Avengers. I think really everybody saw the Avengers, but if that shit had not happened,
there was no recap or anything.
No, it just drops you into that shit. And like I said, it jarred me. And I knew the stuff. Obviously, I'd seen the movies. It was just, I was shocked at how little was explained. And again, we watched Avengers last year, so it's been that length of time. I'm going directly from Thor to Thor 2.
Yeah, it's not really a sequel.
It's definitely a sequel.
I mean,
it's
it's
just
a
that we're
sequel,
missing
but
a
it's
chapter.
like-
There's a Thor 1.5 out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Trouble. Hello. How do you want them to pay for this?
Oh no, there's no need for that. It was just an accident. Anyway, I've got direct line. They'll sort my shop out, no probs. Maybe relax a bit. Take some time off.
Brighton's nice this time of year, or Dover's cool.
My dearest Asgardians, the turn of events has allowed me to take some me time. Here I can lounge like a local, and yet eat like a king. The customs of Midgard are rather odd, but occasionally amusing enough. It seems I can leave this land in the hands of the insurance lords. Say goodbye to your friends!
So what else did you watch?
Well, see, this is the reason why I figured, again...
Did you watch it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did.
No, but did you watch it?
Oh, I watched it. I watched all of it. I told you.
Welcome to the Goat Boat, Asgard's #1 transportation provider with service to the 9 realms. We pride ourselves in operating the only touring vessel powered by magnificent goats. And as the official travel partner of the God of Thunder, you know you're in for a hell of a ride.
It's just my first bad guy.
Never forget your first. Thor, Love and Thunder, in theaters Friday.
Unlocking achievement, Thor countdown. I knew that we were only going to have so much to say about the Dark World because it's just not that interesting. As you say, it's not as bad. There's been a lot more worse stuff out there since then. But we're not going to have an hours-long conversation about the Dark World. It just doesn't inspire that kind of passion.
Is that a dare?
Huh?
Is that a dare?
Really? You think you're the defender of it?
I think Defender might be going a little far.
It's champion.
I am the Avenger.
You're its champion.
So
I personally think that the only real good thing that came out of Dark World was Odin Force's tour date.
Actually, when they kill off the mom, because whenever they do the end game and he goes back and talks to her.
It does. I think we touched on that briefly. That it kind of keeps coming up. Like one of the more important points of any of the four Thor movies was actually from what people think is the worst Thor movie, and without that moment out in that movie, like it pays off so much in Loki, the Loki TV series.
Oh, really?
And in Endgame.
I enjoyed. In the Dark World, they used a Warren Ellis. When Warren Ellis was writing Thor, he was going toward that it's not really magic, it's
they're aliens.
Yeah, it's like technology that's so advanced that you think it's magic. And they took that for the elves. Like the elves, it was all like super technology that looked
they've got
magic.
spaceships,
and
ancient spaceships.
Those hand grenades and everything. I thought that was
black
awesome.
hole things, yeah.
I still think that's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. I forgot about that.
I liked that it was like technology kind of based. So,
and I did like the chopping of the hand, the betrayal and the chopping of the hand, and you're not like sure what the hell's just happened there. That was a pretty good little twist, or especially for a Marvel movie.
I like the fact that when we see the Collector and the Guardians, he has a dark elf in a cage in the back. I thought that was pretty dope.
And that was the stinger. That's right. I forgot. That was the. It still doesn't make a ton of sense to me that they gave the Collector an Infinity Stone, but
well, not just that, but
that was
he had
instruction too.
That he had a dark elf in his collection. It was just made him even creepier. I was watching something something they were talking about, like how creepy was some of the characters in the MCU, and the Collector really is creepy if you think about it. Like he's collecting almost like a serial killer type thing.
Well, I mean, one of his aides killed herself rather than try to allow him to, try to prevent him from getting it. So it says something, And Brainiac, they kind of went Brainiac with him too, a little bit.
Dope as fuck.
So I figured since we weren't going to have that much to talk about when it came to the Dark World, that now is the time to do a Thor countdown. And my thing is, I'm tired. Like I am weary of going back and watching these Marvel movies, and I just don't want to watch some of them ever again. I'm just done with them. I don't want to do this again. So I'm hoping.
Wow.
Huh?
Wow.
No, there's.
You'll never watch them again.
I'm going to watch some of the Marvel movies again.
No,
I'm just tired of watching all of them for the countdowns and stuff.
I'm not doing a start to finish. If I do it again, it'll be the last time of my life, and it'll probably be like 10 years from now. And that'll.
Well, I hope your life lasts a little longer than 10 years.
No. I mean, like if I do a watch,
your hospice care Marvel countdown.
It'll be at least 10 years. I'm definitely got more behind me than in front of me.
None of us are making that argument for ourselves. Yeah,
I'm with you. I can't do it again.
No.
I could probably watch like a phase.
Well, because I rewatched the first Cap and it still fucking holds up. It's still one of my favorites.
We're not talking about Cap. Stop it.
We have Winter Soldier coming up next year.
Stop. Just get to your. What are you trying to get us to do?
So anyway, I'm not trying to get us to do anything. I've got a thing, and then you can participate in this thing.
God, I want to.
So I've watched pretty much all the Thor things, and so I'm going to rank all the Thor things, and then I don't want to watch the majority of these things ever again. Okay. So in my opinion, the worst Thor thing of all time is What If Thor Were an Only Child, the cartoon, the half-hour cartoon, because everything that I don't like about Marvel.
Was that from What If?
What If? Yeah.
Okay. Go.
Yeah. Everything that I don't like about any of the cinematic interpretations of Marvel Thor, it's all like right there. It's just like this guy's an arrogant asshole, irresponsible, just annoying as shit, and that whole cartoon just bugged crap out of me. I think it's probably the worst, if not the worst episodes of
You mean Party Thor?
Party Thor, yeah.
Oh, it's fucking fantastic.
Okay, so you would rank it higher then?
Yes.
Okay.
Bring it on in.
I can't believe you came. Loki, you are the absolute best.
You're my brother from another mother, man. I mean that. I mean it.
Brothers forever.
Brothers forever.
Forever.
I think it's the worst Thor thing. I don't want to watch that ever again.
I am with you on that.
You would rather watch Love and Rockets or whatever the fuck it was.
Love and Thunder, for Christ's sake.
I would rather watch Love and Thunder than watch that again.
Just let the dude do his ranking.
No, but you guys jump in. I want color, obviously. But can you carry on?
Yeah, to me, all that did was give Love and Thunder a pat on the back. Because it took up the stupid Thor thing to gigantic levels.
It's a what if, though. But it's a what if.
Dude, no.
They say
Love and Thunder to me was like, hold my beer.
Let him get to Love and Thunder before you talk about it. Fuck.
Well, hold on. Just real quick. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, no. To me, what killed that movie, and who did I see that movie with?
See, you should have listened to me.
Yes.
You should have. When I held him, you should have listened to me, and you told him to go ahead.
Lock it up.
Stop it. They say it was his fucking favorite part of it. I gotta fucking find out.
You just reached for my cane.
Fucking long to see
I saw that. You were gonna hit me with it.
Go ahead, Frank.
Better watch out. I tap it on the floor. It turns into a hammer.
Second worst
Fucking
thing.
claw hammer.
I do pretend that
claw hammer
when I'm alone.
Second worst Thor thing, The Incredible Hulk returns, 1988.
When David Banner met Maggie Shaw, it was the love they'd both been looking for. But she didn't know his secret. She didn't know that his danger would become her danger. Their life together was threatened. David Banner had been pushed too far.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
He's mean and green, and after 6 years, the Hulk will face his greatest challenge ever, because this time he's fighting for love. Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno are the Incredible Hulk in The Incredible Hulk Returns.
I watched it on Pluto TV, if I remember correctly. I watched that movie when it came out in 1988. It was all we had back in those days.
Everyone was very disappointed.
I was doing something outside of the house.
The day that came on?
The day it came on. I came home, my dad told me about it, and I was so jealous because there were no reruns back then. There was no, if it was a rerun, it'd come on at like 3 a.m. and you'd never hear about it. There was no guide. I had 5 channels, and I didn't get to see it till like 5 years ago.
Oh, really? 5 years ago? Not 5 years later?
No, not 5
They
years
got
later.
a VHS release, if I remember correctly.
We had 5 channels into my 20s.
What about you? You saw it when it came out?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was a dope looking Thor with the fucking, was it like his vest?
Fur-lined vest
and stuff. Yeah, I thought it was
Did he
okay.
even have a hammer?
Yeah,
They did.
hammer.
Did he have a hammer? For some reason,
He never flew. He never flew.
He did not fly, no.
He did not fly.
He just kind of ran into the next room.
His strength level was kind of vague, because at times he could take on Hulk a little bit, but then other times he's like struggling with a car or something, it's like, or fighting guys in a bar. Really? Thor's arm wrestling? Okay.
Next on the list.
No.
Yeah, I thought it was garbage.
The Hulk stuff was good because Bill Bixby was awesome as David Bruce Banner. But yeah, it was a nerdy guy who was Donald Blake who would hold the hammer and call Odin, and that would call Thor back from the beyond. He was like denied access to Valhalla because he had to learn like how to be a more moral Viking or some shit.
Humility.
And so he'd turn up, and it was I think the guy from Coach or something.
Yeah, no.
He's even more rapier.
Oh, way rapier.
Way rapier than a regular Viking.
Yeah.
They had to dial it back.
He's a real meatball in that one, yeah. He has one moment of like, oh, it's so hard because I was in need for thousands of years. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't have sex, I couldn't do anything. It was so terrible. It's like, oh, you've really gone insane. This monologue is telling me you're nuts. And the fact that they send him back that limbo over and over again, and there's no reason why he has to send him back to limbo. They don't say like he's spending energy or anything like that. He just like gets bored when they're doing science stuff, so they send him back to the limbo. It's so bizarre. But yeah, the guy's a meathead, and his relationship with Don Blake is like an irresponsible jackass too. And
doesn't it end where they're like they're like out on a beach or something?
Yeah. And
like,
there's a hot babe that runs
like
by
shaking
him.
their arms at some bad guy or something. I don't know. Maybe not.
That was earlier. Because what happens is partway through the movie, the girl that Banner is shacked up with gets kidnapped by the guys who want to steal the device that's going to turn him back permanently into Bruce Banner. And so they come in with a fake SWAT team in a helicopter, and they shoot a dart at the Hulk, and it punctures his skin, and you got this little trickle of red blood against the green skin, and they get away with the girl in the helicopter, and that's why they're shaking their fists at the helicopter. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And it's a reminder, like television used to do things like paint people with body paint and then have them go to warehouses and fight guys with guns from the A-Team. It's very, very, this is what we had. It's like we've come a long way. It's no wonder it costs a bunch of money to make TV shows nowadays because you see how little the money they spent back in the day. I didn't actually actively watch it. I was doing other stuff while I was on. I couldn't actually engage the whole time. Next worst thing, WandaVision.
Excellent plan. Where's the tenderizer?
What am I looking at? You. What is this? Where's this coming from?
Out there.
You didn't answer the back door for your upside-down cake. Oh, hi.
Is it authentic?
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Is it happening in real time? Is it recorded, fabricated?
I don't know, and I don't know.
What do you know?
My equipment registered an extremely high level of CMBR. That's...
Relic radiation dating back to the Big Bang.
Yeah. Entwined was a broadcast frequency, so I had your goons pick me up a sweet vintage TV, and when I plugged this bad boy in, voila, sound and picture.
Dinner is served.
So you're saying the universe created a sitcom starring 2 Avengers?
It's a working theory.
Because Darcy's in it, and she's in it more than she is anything else.
This list is bullshit.
And she's okay, but I hated WandaVision so damn much, and I just want to take another shot at it, basically.
I hate you. I love WandaVision.
You love WandaVision?
It's like one of my favorite things.
Elaborate.
I loved it.
There you go.
Kooky, goofy, weird.
Dude, it reminded me of all the TV shows I watched as a kid. I love the actress who plays Agatha.
Agatha Harkness, yeah.
It was just so different than the same old thing we've been getting from Mar-Vell for the last 10 years.
And a lot of people like that show. I'm not one of them. I hated that show.
I couldn't believe you hated it.
For me, it was another one that I watched it with my daughter. And so again, anything usually I do with my kids that we both like definitely sticks in my head more. So
Diabolu Frank doesn't have anybody that loves him or has love for him, so he doesn't get to.
You need a puppy.
Yeah. So next worst thing, I don't think we're in the place yet. We're going to say good thing. Next worst thing, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 12, Who You Really Are.
With Sif?
With Sif.
Must find the remaining diviners as well as anyone who's transformed.
We drowned the temple where the diviners are activated, so that's a plus. And we do know the woman who has changed.
So someone was transformed. A Kree slave warrior created. Have you put it down?
No. She disappeared.
What do you know of her?
We don't know much about Raina's transformation. Sky witnessed it, but didn't see much.
You were there. What did you see? I didn't. I mean, nothing.
Were there others with you? The changes may not be on the surface, but buried inside. You must understand, these creatures are weapons. Abominations, even if they don't know it.
The second Sif episode. Do you remember that one? This is the one where she comes out of the ocean with amnesia, and she's wearing leather and like jeans and stuff, and so they have trouble identifying her, and they end up
they end up at a bar, right?
It's I don't remember if there's a bar or not, to be honest with you. I watched 3 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes in pretty close proximity. It all kinds of runs together after a while. But I think they're in like Portugal or someplace.
Shouldn't this list just have been the 3 Thor movies?
Don't just let them go. Say, okay, next on the list.
Okay. Next.
So we're including Asguardians in general, so that's including Sif. So this is the one where Sif's got amnesia. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. find her and claim her. It turns out that she was given amnesia by a Kree who's got this little stupid hammer thing, this little baby hammer thing, and it's called a truncheon, and he taps people with it and it gives them amnesia. He's a fighter and stuff. So the reason why he's on Earth is because he's trying to find the cache of diviners that the Kree left behind when they were doing the experimentations they were going to create in humans. And when he finds out that A, all the diviners have disappeared, and B, that among the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a person who's been exposed to Terrigen Mist and is therefore one of the abominations that are the Inhumans, he wants to kill her. Sif wants to kill her. That's the only thing that Sif and the tree guy can agree upon. She ends up shooting herself with an icer because she's having her tremor powers and it's causing problems and scaring everybody. And then eventually they use the truncheon on the Kree guy and send him back, even though clearly whoever sent him would know that he was sent, why he was sent for, because it was a secret mission, because most of the Kree command don't know that they successfully created the Terrigen Mist and were able to create Inhumans to be soldiers for the Kree at some point. They thought it was a bad idea and shut it all down, and they buried the idea that it even did happen. And so they give him amnesia so he needs to go back and tell the Kree that, oh no, actually there is Inhumans now and you should probably go wipe them out or enlist them. It was a really lame episode. I didn't care for it. And the Jamie Alexander's English accent was especially bad in that episode. It was really, she had obviously gotten rusty, and it showed in a really bad way. Plus she's spending the whole time going, who am I? What is this? It's lame. Do you remember that one at all, Fix? No, I'd actually forgotten that one existed too. I had to research to even find it. So just above that, Thor Love and Thunder.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So Paquita watched it, and she actually liked it the first time she saw it. She thought that it was funny, and she enjoyed it, and she was excited for me to finally see it because I think she assumed that I was going to hate it. She knew you guys hated it, and because she'd seen it and liked it, she was just basically waiting to see how much I was going to hate it and why I was going to hate it.
He and I did a podcast.
Yeah, she did. Y'all did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, and she also wanted to make sure that we watched it together. She wanted to watch it with me so she could watch my reactions and also revisit her own reactions. Watching it a second time, she didn't find it as funny. She didn't like it as much. In fact, I think it went from a like to a dislike on the second viewing. But she did still laugh. She laughed several times over the course of the movie. So
you know why I like her? First of all, I think she's generally a nice person as far as you two being hooked up, because she genuinely likes to see you be happy about stuff you like. And I think that's really cool, because my wife hates everything I like. So yeah, there's a little jealousy there.
I picked up on that.
But also, it's kind of like a science experiment, because even if she's not happy, it's like she gets to watch you squirm or whatever. It cracks me up.
Where it backfires if then you watch it again and you're like, ooh. That's how I was with Top Gun. When I showed my wife Top Gun, she had never seen it before. And I'm like, this movie fucking sucks. I'm like, we bought this to watch it. And she's like, this movie's really lame. And I'm like, I agree. This movie sucks.
You're the Thor guy, though. How did you feel about Love and Thunder? Because you were not part of that podcast with these two.
Fucking couldn't be any more disappointed. I mean, my dad, who was only a fan, big Mar-Vell fan of the first wave. I think he actually saw it before I did. He called me up. He's like, don't see it. You're going to get real mad. He's like, because I was real mad. And they just, I think when me and Fixit were talking about it, Taika
Waititi, Malachi.
He had some reins on him for Ragnarok.
I made a point of watching the credits, and I noticed that the writing credits on Ragnarok are like guys who normally write Marvel movies, like the guys who I think wrote other Thor movie stuff. This one he co-wrote with somebody. So before you got like a bunch of ad-libbing on top of the pleasing Marvel formula, and now this was like the full unadulterated Taika Waititi going.
Well, and that's what Fixit. He made a good analogy that way. He's like, yeah, he had the reins partially on for Ragnarok, and then they just said, hey, it's all yours, free reign. And to turn a cool character. I mean, I understand sometimes, it's funny when he's, being a doofus or whatever, but to be as bumbling idiot as he was in that last movie, and to take what was probably the best, I mean, that era of Thor comics brought Thor's writing back to Simonson days of like good thought out storylines. I mean, the whole God Butcher storyline, that made Thor popular to a lot of people who weren't Thor people.
Jason Aaron was already making a name for himself in comics with stuff like Scout, but not only did Aaron make Thor a must-read book again, but also Thor made Jason Aaron like one of the legendary Marvel writers as a result of how well received that was, how long the run was. You put his name up there with guys like Peter David on the Hulk.
Yep.
You know, he's one of those guys. Yeah.
And to take a no-brain win and just fucking ruin it. I mean, Christian Bale was nothing. And I give Christian Bale his props. He did the best with what he had. They said, you got to be like this. He acted it up for what I don't think it was bad acting on his part. It was the way that character was written, designed.
What gets me is today you brought
everything.
Mr. Fixit, the Gore action figure. And I had a sense of what Gore looked like, because I watched part of my fatigue, I watched all of the special features available on streaming on the Disney Plus. One thing I have to give Disney Plus credit for, like I go to MGM Plus and they don't have any special features on the Bond.
MGM Plus is a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. And they don't have the special features on the Bond movies. It's like, and sometimes they don't even have the Bond movies. They let the Bond movies cycle out. They always have some, but they don't have them all the time. Like Disney has all their stuff all the time. And it's like the only reason to get MGM Plus is to watch the Bond stuff catalog. That's the thing you have. And you don't have all the Bond stuff. You don't have all the special features. You don't have the documentaries. You don't have any of that shit. What the fuck is your reason for existing?
Is it possible Sean Connery was too off the cuff and on the extra stuff?
Well,
talking about slapping women and stuff. And we got to get rid of these special features.
And the thing is, they don't give you commentary tracks anywhere. They don't, and nobody gives you commentary tracks. That's a thing. But like the special features, especially the canned stuff from the 70s and 60s and shit, they throw that on all the discs. It's nothing. You guys own that shit. There's no reason why you can't put it up except you're too goddamn lazy. Or it's also MGM is owned by Amazon, and Amazon, like, they just killed Comixology. They just steadily ruined it until then they discontinued it. And that's what Amazon does. Like, they don't give a shit about something and they just let it rot away. So I blame Amazon for that. But anyway, I watch all those special features and I see them showing images of Gore and Bale talking about how the one thing he said is he's not going to wear the G-string like Gore. But you bring this action figure to Mr. Fixit looking at it, and it's like there's more to it than that. He's got the cool little the hair tentacle things like that chick Una from Star Wars.
He had dog legs.
He's got the cowl that he wears most of the time. It seems like the hood and everything else. The sword actually comes out of his body. It's like everything about this is so much cooler than what they had in the movie. And especially with CGI, make the sword come out of his body. That's not hard. Instead, they've got the sword that he runs around slashing with, and it's just pedestrian. It's like anybody runs around with a sword. Why is that supposed to be some kind of cool thing? So it's like just on design alone. And he was already bitching because he was having to spend like 4 hours in the chair all the time for the makeup. They got it down to like 3 or something. But it's like, if you're going to be in the chair for that long, make it count. And they didn't. It's not. It's a really boring look.
Well,
it's just a bald guy who's pale.
Yeah.
You know?
Why have another human? I mean, the whole Thor is their
supposed
key.
To be cosmic. Yeah.
Thor is their key to those cosmic characters down the road if they want to do that type of movies. And I just this movie just totally was like, you took the excitement of everyone who loved the last one and just you had a guaranteed win with the storyline. Guaranteed. And
shit the bed.
The problem though is
didn't just shit the bed and then drove the bed off a cliff onto another.
Well, hold on. So
bed of shit.
When I saw this movie, the moment I knew we were fucked was the beginning.
Me and you went and saw this together.
I think so, because I remember the scene where they go up to him and he's meditating and he planted the axe into the ground and they're like, let's go. And he takes out and he cuts it and he jumps on it like a fucking broom from Harry Potter.
No, he pulls it out of the ground where it's developed roots to show how long he's been sitting around there.
But he jumped on it
and rode it like a broom, like a witch.
Fucking Harry Potter. And I remember saying, fuck you. I was already like, that's it. The movie's done for me. There's nothing, no coming back from this.
Frightful. Just that Jason Aaron stuff, was it funny and goofy? The God Butcher stuff?
No.
Okay, right.
It was fucking brutal.
A God Butcher.
It was absolutely.
They make a fucking God bomb where he's going to destroy the universe.
So would we say that the Jane Foster cancer storyline, was that a lot of
no,
same guy?
No,
were they squirting each other with like those water flowers?
Right.
No, and
the whole thing was Jason Aaron, but it wasn't at the same time, and they're all that more.
Well, and some people
serious. It's all serious.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Some people didn't like. You had your classic. I don't want to change. People who didn't like that version of Thor.
Thor doesn't have a hammer in his pants.
But I'm telling you, it was a solid run from beginning all the way to the end.
And then when he becomes unworthy,
he brings back Mangog, and Mangog is fucking cool. And he has
he becomes unworthy because
the Thor you like with Volstagg.
Oh, fucking Bloodstorm.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
dude, it was.
Yeah.
He freaking Malekith cuts off Thor's left arm and carries it around as a necklace, just to rub it in Thor. I mean,
so what it sounds to me is that maybe Taika Waititi,
who has said he did not like doing any action parts from the previous movie.
No, actually, he came out and he said he admitted he took the movies because he needed the money.
But he said he didn't like doing the action part.
Oh no, if someone else would do the action. He liked doing the comedy, and he admitted he got paid so much for Ragnarok. When they gave it to him, he was like, I don't feel he was confident enough
and I think
to do the next one. Oh, I mean, I love this, what they do in the shadows and shit like that's great, but I'm
just saying, I'm wondering if tone-wise he was maybe not the right choice.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to begin with, maybe we didn't need to have the silly kooky, and he showed you
bird creatures,
silly kooky with Ragnarok. Let's give him some of the darkest, most sensitive material that Thor's got to offer, and let's give that to the goofy, kooky Ragnarok guy. It kind of sounds like it was a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Even if Taika Waititi would have executed, nailed it, it's like that's
if its tone was off.
If you were going in looking for Gore the God Butcher and a heartfelt, cancer diagnosis for Jane Foster, when you think about it, this could have never worked, even in the best of times, right? It couldn't have worked.
Well, they said
the Gore Butcher part of Aaron's run is almost like a horror comic.
Oh yeah,
like that. I mean, it is that you're
Thor
is terrifying.
Yeah, when you're watching the movie, especially the parts where they're focusing on him, they try to be scary. They didn't succeed at all. Where he's telling the children scary stories and appearing in the shadows and that. There's one jump scare moment where he just appears in front of Thor to attack him, and it's this isn't scary though. This is a comically inept version of scary. Ugh. So if you're saying that was a horror arc, which is great, I think that's very interesting. Yeah. Definitely not the right guy. Where's Scott Derrickson to do that Thor?
I remember seeing something about where Christian Bale talked about how they took out a lot of his scenes, and apparently he does this blood-curdling scream that the Marvel people are like, no, we can't have this in the movie. And there's supposed to be a scene where he has all these lines on him, like writing, and it's supposed to be all the different gods he's killed. He's keeping track.
I thought that he.
They never explained that.
I thought they did something with the.
Oh, they did, but they never in the supposedly the scenes. He explains that every time he kills a god, he remembers him or some shit like that. He's writing on his body a reminder of who he's killed.
All right. Well, I'm glad you didn't like it. I was afraid you're going to be like, I like it, like Batman.
Well, hold on. I'm shocked that you missed Adventures of Babysitting.
What was that?
There is
Thor.
a Thor in there.
Oh, is there a Thor?
Yes, the little girl runs around being Thor, and she hands it to the Kingpin, and Kingpin decides he doesn't want to be Thor.
True.
When did that happen? I don't remember that.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
But when does that happen though? That happens in the movie?
In the entire movie, dude, she's running around as being Thor.
But where does she does the Vincent D'Onofrio thing? I don't remember seeing him.
He's the tow truck guy.
Yeah,
he's the tow truck guy, and he tow.
I know who he is in Adventures in Babysitting.
And so she goes.
She in Love and Thunder.
They don't have the money.
Not.
He's not saying, jackass.
Yeah,
he's saying he should have been on your list of odd, weird shit.
Okay.
Yeah, because you were bringing Thor out of your ass for all kinds of stuff.
Well, I'm not done yet. But
to go back to the Aaron run,
yeah,
Fixit was not a Thor guy.
Nope.
Yet he was calling me. Well, we call each other all the time just to bullshit. But he was calling me to see if I got the new issue in because I was
too cheap to buy him.
I mean, that's how good.
I will be true. He speaks the truth. I've never particularly cared for Thor. He's an interesting character from a distance, but I don't give a shit about Thor. Fryhole gave me the first run of Aaron's run, and I was just like, "This is Thor." Because I know y'all are talking about Simonson's run. Yeah, I thought it was cool, but I thought it was goofy as shit. Fucking frog Thor and shit like that was dumb and goofy. That. I didn't particularly care for it. The only time I ever got into Thor is when Garth Ennis wrote him. The Viking.
That was great.
The Viking story. I thought that was kind of neat, but Thor was never that cool. No matter what I saw, I never saw. He was a fucking paramedic at one time, and he had a fucking vest jacket and a ponytail. He was just always goofy to me. Reading this shit, I was just like, dude, if this is Thor, this is his world. Fuck, dude, is awesome. Why isn't there more of this? And so, yeah, that's kind of what got me on the Thor train. Yeah. Choo choo.
And then, I didn't hate it as much as you guys, but the problem is, especially at the end, any credit I could have given the movie up to that point, because I like Valkyrie in the movie. I liked where she's I like when Zeus is talking about the origins and orgies, and she's like, I'm not mad at that, But also watching Ragnarok right before Love and Thunder, they're playing off of chemistry, romantic chemistry, more on Thor's side, admittedly, between Valkyrie and Thor. And in the next movie, she's confirmed lesbian, and it's oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing this now. And I don't have a problem with it. It's just you did the last movie. You're the one who set that up in the first place. And then there's never really a resolution, and all of a sudden they're just buddies. And of course, she's king of the Asgardian survivors, which she's barely coming out of drunken stupor, and you're gonna put her in charge of the survivors. Oh, you can do it. Good job. And of course, we get to see her do that, the ice cream place and the tourism and all this stuff. I'm not into all that, right? But I did like elements of her character in the movie. I did like that.
Jane Foster.
Yep. Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman. I like that Natalie Portman had done some working out, and she had a little bit of muscle on her. She got pretty jacked. I thought she looked good in the costume. I thought that the whole exploding hammer thing was all right. I wasn't as mad at the feuding weapons as you specifically were.
Oh, I thought that was so stupid.
But I didn't love it, but I wasn't as mad at as you guys.
Oh,
were.
when when Stormbringer's jealous of him. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
and then
that's so
he gets
lame.
Stormbringer his booze and just
That was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, wasn't a huge fan of that.
They broke their own rules.
Yeah, and then of course they're totally shitting on Russell Crowe's Zeus with the horrible accent and everything else. But there were some cute moments. I could deal with it. I just my main problem is they tried to put two different movies together that didn't go together, and of course the humor stuff didn't work for me.
Well,
so what I really wanted is somebody to do
back to the Russell Crowe part. Quick.
Yeah.
Zeus was always like a deity with Odin. I mean, and to make him
well, they do verbally build him up and then make him a total clown. Yeah, and then of course there's two different endings
I want to
too.
see a fat clown. I'll look in the mirror.
Well, like in one of the deleted scenes, Zeus comes back and visits Jane Foster in her hospital bed, and that's where he explained that the Thunderbolt can allow you to transport through space and time the way that the Bifrost did, which they never fucking explain in the movie. You have to watch the deleted scene to understand. And of course, it's contradicted by the Stinger at the end of the movie, where he's a little licking his wounds and mad and sending Hercules after and stuff. So it's like, oh, so the part where they explain how that even happened doesn't even fit in the continuity because they made changes to the movie, and so you just never explained it. It's like my issue was I thought that when they were focusing on the Jane Foster cancer stuff, that was interesting, but they didn't spend nearly enough time with that, and they didn't have the right director doing that sequence. The gore stuff,
they tried to smash too many stories.
It's like three different movies smashed together, and the one that dominates is the worst of the three. And the gore stuff should have been more intense, should have had a different person behind that. Didn't really work. But the main issue is the end, when everybody's Thor, and everybody gets their end weapon.
Kids.
And then the end, when it's like Jane Foster dies, so Thor's going to adopt the space baby version of Gore's daughter, and he's going to be the single father running around with Roke Mjolnir, and she's got Stormbringer, and it's just like, this is not the Marvel Universe I want. Who wants single dad, goofy dad Thor for the rest of your fucking movie? You set it up to where, okay, well, like what you do is you wait for Chris Hemsworth to get hired, and then you have the Jane Foster movie where you actually focus on the cancer stuff, give it a movie or two before you kill her off, and make it matter. But instead, like you said, I think the sequences where they're dealing with the cancer stuff are okay. It's just, even when they're joking, even when the one scene that Darcy's in, I assume she's going to be throughout the movie, she's in one stinking scene.
Is that partly Disney's fault?
I mean, it's Disney's fault
for wanting the dollar now.
Well, and it's not just that. It's Iger was trying to blame, in particular, he was shitting on Nia DaCosta and the Marvels and trying to basically blame the Marvels on Nia DaCosta. And he said that they were spread too thin. They didn't have enough executives on the ground. And it's like, obviously, it was executives meddling with this movie, trying to mash too many different things all together at once to fuck this movie up. They try to make it too many different things. And then you're retiring everybody. Like, you spend the better part of a decade making us fall in love with Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and Ant-Man, I guess, for some people. I'm looking at you, Fixit. Only you, Fixit. They make us fall in love with these characters like they would, like, say, a James Bond. But instead of just recycling and, like, having another actor come in, yeah, there's going to be some guys that aren't going to be as good. We're going to get Lazenby at some point. But you're still continuing those characters we've fallen for. Just like they did with the X-Men. You know, like, you have some people like Nicholas Hoult, some people like Frazier, you know, just different flavors, but it's still the same character, and you're continuing that character in perpetuity. And instead, they're like, no, we're going to kill all these guys off. We're going to basically end all their careers, and then we're going to be fucking Shang-Chi and the Eternals. And they think that's an even match, and we're going to keep being interested going forward. And of course, again, like the Eternals, that could have been an okay movie if there weren't 12 of them, and they're trying to, like, introduce us and get us invested in 12 different people all at the same time. There isn't enough time to do this, even for a fucking 3-hour-long movie. So
my dad was so fucking lost in that movie.
Yeah. And that's the executive. That's, again, marveling way too hard. I don't even blame Feige. I think that just got away from him. You know, I'm hoping that Feige's trying to pull things back again, but I'm not blaming him, because when you've got Bob Chapek, who, by the way, while I was watching all those special features, there's this fellow who happened to also be named Chapek, who's in a producer on these recent movies. It's Bob Chapek's hit. So maybe the problem is fucking nepotism. Maybe that's another issue that we're having, is they're just like letting everybody, and also I can't help but notice all the Alonzo produced movies that are still coming out, and the Alonzo stuff is, the ones I've seen are still pretty good, you know, where the Bob Chapek's son movies, not so much. I'm just wondering if maybe there's some issues inside the Marvel house beyond, it's Nia DaCosta's fault. Fuck you, Bob. You know, that's one area where me and Elon Musk can meet up. Yeah, fuck you, Bob. So are we done talking about this shitty movie that was irritating? Yeah,
I got nothing more.
Okay.
I don't have you want to do.
So
let's go back to Dark World.
So slightly above Love and Thunder is the shorts Team Thor, Team Daryl.
I guess I'm just taking a break. You know, we had this really cool adventure saving Earth, and I was pretty happy. Anyway, so I needed some me time, and I came to Australia, and that's when I moved in with Daryl.
Hello.
And here we are.
I never wear cutoffs. How do I keep waking up in cutoffs?
Normal pants going in, cutoffs coming out.
You?
Oh, by the way, have you heard from Tony Stark and Captain America.
They didn't contact you?
I haven't received a single phone call.
1 second. Hey, T-Bone. How many times do we have to go over this? No amount of money is gonna get me to join your little pissing contest. What? Here, talk to Thor.
Yeah.
He's sort of been waiting to hear from you. I have him right here. Oh, you can't right now? Okay.
Am I disappointed that they didn't invite me to fight with them? No.
He doesn't know how to get in touch with you.
I don't have a phone.
He doesn't have a phone.
Send a raven. I'd just start my own team. Team Thor, of course. And it would be me and Daryl. Just us, right, D?
Yep. I didn't really love those either, but if I have to watch the shorts or Love and Thunder, I'd rather watch shorts. At least one of them has.
You didn't talk about the goats.
Yeah, I didn't talk about the goats. They didn't bother me as much as you, but I don't like them. And they were stupid. And all the Guardian stuff, Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, man, I hated Thor doing all that stuff. Like that's
What about the kid him doll with the floating?
Oh, he fucking sucked.
You mean Axel?
No, sorry, Axel. That's the worst thing too. Like
totally.
Yeah, he's Axel.
I thought it was so stupid.
Instead of honoring his dead father, he's like, no, I'm going to take on with a singer that I almost certainly have no relation to. Why would this kid even know Axel? And why was there so much Guns N' Roses music in this movie? I like Guns N' Roses fine, but I tell you what, this is the second time that the last installment of a franchise has been partially ruined by an excessive
Resident
Evil! Excessive use of
I was so pissed off at that trailer was awesome.
Yeah,
fucking take me home. Fuck, I just watched it last week. By the way. I watched all of them, and then the animated ones.
Oh, really?
That,
good.
yeah.
When do you have some free time? I want to at least record on the second one.
Save it for the podcast.
Next week after.
Okay,
Just give me a call.
I'll give you a shout.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Just
So
not during the week.
Yeah.
They vibed so well on that right there. That was awesome. I love watching stuff like that.
They were like vibrating at the same frequency.
Resident Evil. It's because we were both pumped up when that trailer came out. It was like, oh,
I've been waiting so long because they'd had the accident and it had just been this long production period. I wanted to see the end of the story. Yeah, anyway.
Great trailer.
So, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1, Episode 8, The Well.
The epic adventure that began in Thor: The Dark World continues in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All new next Tuesday, when the power of the gods,
Whoever wielded the staff got superhuman strength.
falls into the hands of mere mortals. It sets the stage for rage.
Something's wrong with Warren.
Tell me how to fix it.
This is the one where it comes out immediately after The Dark World, shows them cleaning up the mess and bitching about it. And then it just so happens that some guys are digging up Asgardian artifacts and get a hold of a staff that turns them into berserkers and gives them superhuman powers. And one of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also becomes a berserker, and so they're fighting at each other. And Christopher McNichol from the fucking Ghostbusters 2.
I await the word of Vigo.
He's the Asgardian that left it there, and he was previously a berserker, and he shows up throughout the series. So that's what I think about with my berserker Asgardians is Christopher McNichol from Dragon Slayer.
You have a remote toilet flusher?
Sometimes people leave in haste, forgetting to flush. Other times they're residual remnants. I like a fresh bowl.
What did you watch that one? Do you remember that one at all?
I do.
That one I remembered. And for some reason, the other one I could not remember it at all. That one I at least remembered part of. Oh, and it's also the one where they revealed Grant Ward being involved with the torture of one of his brothers, which eventually lets you know that there's something going wrong with this dude. So yeah.
I didn't think this episode was that bad.
Well, we're in the gray zone now. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was fine.
Yeah, we don't know how many total things are on his list, so I don't know if we're getting towards the top or if we're still in the bottom.
We're definitely on the bottom.
I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the way through.
But that's first season. That's actually one of the problems. It would have been maybe higher if it wasn't first season.
Yeah.
But it still got some of that funky, waiting to get to the point stuff in that episode. So above that would be Marvel one-shots. A funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. I just liked it. It was a nice Phil Coulson little mini-sode. Helps to set up the arrival of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. You remember that one, right? Where he's driving through the desert and he stopped at the gas station and there's robbers come in and he fights the robbers. You never saw that one? Mainly, I put it on the list because it has the Roxxon reference. I'm still waiting for them to pay off the Roxxon reference. Next would be Thor: The Dark World. So, as you can see, it's higher up there than a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
At least it exceeds Love and Thunder. Above that, I put Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1, Episode 15, Yes Men.
From the world of Thor come two warrior women.
I am Lady Sif of Asgard.
One on a quest to enslave mankind.
Men kneel before me.
The other determined to stop her.
Lorelei has Ward. Agent Ward is no longer the man you knew. He will not hesitate to kill you.
That was the episode with Lorelei.
Okay.
Did you have experience with Lorelei in the comics? Of course you did, right? With Walt Simonson, Enchantress's sister.
Yes. but
you don't remember the episode though, right?
Man.
That's the one where the Dark Elves cause enough havoc supposedly that she breaks loose after thousands of years in captivity. She comes to Earth and she starts building an army out of like bikers and to try to take over the Earth. And Sif in her actual armor doing Sif type stuff with a decent accent is coming to stop her. Yeah,
that was a good episode.
And it's funny too because both episodes involving Asgardians, it's Grant Ward who gets overwhelmed and he becomes the Berserker, and he's also the one who falls under Lorelai's spell and is fighting the other agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's a pretty solid episode, especially for a first season episode. I like that one okay. And my one theory though is watching it in retrospect. I think that it was actually Loki while impersonating Odin that let her loose to cause havoc. I don't think that she was let loose by the Dark Elf because this is weeks, if not months after the episode with the Dark Elves. It doesn't make sense because she was supposed to have gotten to Earth through Loki's secret channels. Like, well, the best person to show her those secret channels is Loki, who's currently the god of Asgard, the king of Asgard. So just a conspiracy theory there. Above Yes Man is the original Thor. I still am not a huge fan, but it has its moments. It's got some good stuff in it. There's some decent deleted scenes in that one too. So I don't love it, but at least it's, for me, the most accurate reflection of what Thor comics should be.
And a lot of credit toward not trying to change the Destroyer, just being like, the Destroyer is cool.
Yeah.
Just paint it on screen and let it, it was just...
And even for, that thing was entirely CGI and it still looked fucking fantastic.
It looked awesome.
Yeah. So I give big point to that. And it just didn't piss me off as much as the other two did. There was nothing in Thor I wasn't a fan, but it didn't piss me off either. Above that, I put Loki season 1. And I'm not the Loki guy. I'm not a redemption arc guy. Motherfucker was a mass murderer, killed hundreds, if not thousands of people in the Battle of New York. Took that one guy's fucking eyeball out of his head. Probably a rich guy, maybe a dick, but still ripping people's eyeballs out in public. Not cool. Not into that. But the first season, I have to admit, it's just really well done. And it was engaging. And obviously the production values were all over the place. They spent a fuck ton of money on that shit. I rewatched like special features and they did the assembled documentary for it on Disney Plus, and seeing how much effort went into that. And the lady who directed, I think, the entire first season was just so enthusiastic and had a lot of cool ideas. And I don't know why they wouldn't have brought her back for the second season. I really want to look into that because she just seemed like a really cool person with, that could have done more interesting stuff. What did you saw Loki season 1, right?
Not.
You did not see Loki?
I have not watched it yet.
Do you have Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Why do you not want to watch Loki if you're a Thor guy? Is it that do you not like Loki?
No, I do like Loki.
Do you not like Loki as an anti-hero?
It came out after Love and Thunder too, didn't it?
Did it?
Maybe not.
Shit, I don't know.
Around, I would say. Well, I mean, you had a little bit of free time. So that's why I was wondering why you didn't watch it during
My daughter loved it, so I mean, I will watch it at some point. It just hasn't been my main focus. I like Loki, but I'm not like just because everything's Asgard. I don't.
It's got nothing to do with Asgard or Thor.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Well, a little bit. It has a lot to do with Loki, and particularly they explain a lot of things related to Loki. It's up right after the end of Endgame, or the last appearance of Loki at Endgame. Anyway, it's a good series. I don't care about Loki.
It's just
I don't care about his redemption arc.
It's just a sci-fi show.
Yeah, basically. I mean, well, there's a lot of people who complain about series 2 turning him into Doctor Who as a for instance.
Oh, it's what it is. It's more of like a sci-fi Doctor Who mystery kind of thing. It has nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay. Well, before we dive too much deeper into Loki, was there anything in terms of my order that you would dispute?
Let me get back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 3. No, I don't give a fuck, dude. This is your stupid list. Go.
Okay. So you're the only other person here that watched both series of Loki. Now, Fixit, did you? Yeah, you watched, didn't you?
I've seen the first series.
Was it just you and me on that podcast?
No, he was on the first season of Loki.
I've only watched the first season.
You are the only one that's watched both seasons with me then. Okay. So, and you only watched it I kind of prodded you a little bit. Like, you weren't in a hurry. You didn't watch it immediately.
No, I don't watch any of these things immediately anymore.
Yeah, it's just more of a fatigue.
We just let them all come out.
Because you liked the first season a lot.
Yeah, we actually rewatched the first one to watch the second one.
Right.
But we started watching the first one while the second one was already coming out. Okay. So we were like, let's just let it finish, and then we kind of watched it at our own pace.
Yeah, and then we watched them pretty much daily. I think we had to maybe wait a week for the last episode, but we were playing catch up, and we just watched basically one a day.
Hobie? Hello? We have a little bit of a situation we wanted to run by you.
Mobius! Wow! Great to see you again!
That's what's been happening.
Wow. Time slipping.
Wait, you know that?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but we just saw it happen.
Yeah.
I've been pulled through time between the past and the present.
Hello?
If what I saw is true, there's nothing to stand between this world and utter destruction.
Only one way to find out.
Little good old-fashioned leg work. Listen, we have different styles. You're a man of action, which is fine. I take a more slow, deliberate, cerebral approach. It's really goodbye. It's up to us to save this place.
Is this cracked?
You okay?
Whatever we do, we're playing God.
We are gods. But how do you choose who lives and who dies? Make the hard choice. It's him.
You better run!
War is on its way. Come on, you're the god of mischief. Always have been. Always will be. A little over the top, don't you think? I thought it was spot on.
I thought it was good, but I think you texted me about it last night. It does, everything kind of just gets reset by the end of it. The only things I didn't get, where I think sometimes they fucked up their own logic in that show just a little bit, where they would talk about, like how the loom, it was pruning its own, whenever the timelines got to a certain amount, it was going to prune the timelines, right? But then he's all like, the variants are already out there. How are the variants already out there if you pruned all the timelines? Like, it doesn't, these variants exist on the branches. If the branches are pruned, there are no variants. Like, that's what a variant is.
Quantum.
Yeah, so I think sometimes they lost their own.
Well, and again, they had different
variant
directors, and they had multiple directors in the second season. Where the first season was one person who maybe had an easier time keeping things straight. And the second season, maybe these guys weren't talking to each other enough, and their little COVID bubbles and stuff. So what got me is, like, in some of the episodes, I would be watching it, it's like, this has a really weirdly Lynchian vibe to it. And again, like, with Fryhole liking WandaVision, that's cool. But for me, WandaVision pissed me off because it felt like trying to do a Lynchian type thing and just failing because it's just such a basic show by comparison to like a Twin Peaks or something that's like really crazy and out there and shit. And then I'm watching Loki, and it's not crazy either. It's not like going too far out, but just the vibe had a really weirdly Lynchian vibe. It just like seemed like they had the right wavelength. And I was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just projecting, maybe I'm looking for something that isn't there. And then I watched the special features, and there's like two guys, I don't know if they're brothers or what, but they're twin directors who were working together on their episodes. They're both wearing custom t-shirts that involve a joke involving somebody, I guess, on the cast, and they've got the Twin Peaks font over it, and it's some weird like obtuse joke. It's like, oh, these guys are clearly, and I read somewhere else they were fans of Lynch. It's like they were going for that. That was intentional. And so any Marvel thing that reminds me of David Lynch is automatically better than most Marvel things because they're trying for something remotely artistic and just a vibe that I don't think is going to resonate with a large number of people. And sure enough, there are some people that think that Loki season 2 is the best thing Marvel has ever done, and then there are some people that just can't stand it. And it's been like both the honest trailers and the what's the Screen Rant one that they do, the pitch meeting?
Yeah, something like that.
Both those guys just savaged season 2. And it's like, even though there were things about that season that I didn't particularly like, particularly Paquita hated Victor Timely. She hates that actor now. She doesn't ever want to see him on anything ever again. She can't stand him so bad, but especially as that character. But there's other stuff that was just sort of like the whole season had this weird existential angst where it's like I knew that it was going to end up in a bad place. I knew it was going to end on a sour note, and I knew that they were going to find some way to retire Loki just like they had everybody else. And knowing that all the stuff they were trying to do was futile, and it ends up being futile, and I've never invested in enough to expect it to work, it kind of works for me. It's like, okay, there's an inevitability to this that you can't hero your way out of, and I'm into that. I'm into that fatalism. But also, but one of the things I did have is I just don't believe Loki would ever be so, and I realize he has a major introspection in the first season, recognizing that all of his scheming, all the bad things that he had done, killed his mom, killed himself, killed a whole bunch of other people too, recognizing the error of his ways, trying to make a difference, yada, yada, yada. Him falling in love with Sylvie didn't ever really fully work for me, and I think they backed away from that.
They backed away from it, yeah, I was going to say.
But also like, oh, my friends, I've got to save my friends at the TVA that I've known for like a week, It's like, I don't buy his conviction to those people, and that he would spend all that time going through time loops to learn every possible thing to fix it for his friends instead of just finding someplace for himself to exist and giving it up on them. He's just too selfish, and he's still too bad of a person, and I realize realize that he has fans who want him to be the good guy in the end. And I don't buy him doing a face turn. But I still enjoyed the season. I enjoyed the vibe of it. And I thought the ending was interesting. I like that it sort of like explains why things are the way they are. He's sort of the reason why phases 4 and 5 suck. But he couldn't have known that. He was just trying to be the good guy for once. It makes perfect sense that a timelines infused with Loki energy would be fucked up and suck, and I'd hate them all. So I was kind of, for me, it almost like no prizes phases 4 and 5. And I wanted the end, but I think that was an interesting way, an interesting spin on this that makes it work for me within the canon.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that so where are the fucking other Kangs at?
Yeah.
Like, where are they?
But it was cool. I did like that they brought He Who Remains back to like go, yeah, I knew you guys weren't actually going to kill me. It'd be funny though, because they could just say like, no, actually I did. And then you never ever see that guy again.
No. I like that most of the last episode not most, but a lot of the last episode just spent you in time with the last episode of the first season. Like it was like you know what I mean? Like
the whole season felt like a bottle episode coded to the first season. And even though they did stuff like travel through time and they had some grand adventure, but it was so much smaller in scale compared to the first season that it didn't really.
They're in a McDonald's instead of trying to escape a doomed planet with like asteroids.
And so much of it is spent at the TVA itself. And it was interesting too, like how dark it got. Like they killed all those people. We heard their bones crunching and the blood pool within those cubes and stuff. And Loki, of course, is threatening that and he's committing torture, but it's the one guy. When you're taking all of these people and just murdering them just because they won't do what you say, she could have just left them somewhere. She could have left them somewhere in space and time. She could have just locked them up, thrown away the key or something. No, she specifically felt the need to watch them all die in front of her by her action. That is some deeply evil shit. That's how you know Renslayer has turned in a way she's never coming back from. And I think she'd be a great Kang as a result of that. Because like I think Jonathan Majors gave interesting performances, especially since the whole point was to show there's a bunch of variants and we're still waiting to see like the real Kang who's going to be a badass, who for all I know is going to be a Mortis and going to be played by a whole other actor. You know, I don't know. They might fuck with us like that. But what they did with her character was so much more appalling in that second season that to me she actually seems more formidable. And they've already said in that season how important she was, the rise of that Kang, He Who Remains, that she could just be Kang. She's an evil, scary badass. And to have a black woman be the terror of the universe, while I can see where some people might have issue with that, it shows that level of power and that level of visibility, I think, would ultimately be beneficial.
Yeah, but really Jonathan Majors gave us like 2 Kangs, right? Like it wasn't even like...
Well, He Who Remains, Victor Timely, and the Kang from Quantumania, right?
Oh, I was talking about specifically in Loki.
Okay.
We only got the 2. And really, it's kind of all about him. That's where I was just like that's kind of annoying. Although you could argue that the Kang that appears, he wasn't really acting the same. He was almost like a modern dude from 2023 at the end of season 2. I don't remember him acting like that at the end of season 1, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's where I had no problem with Loki becoming the time god essentially, and all that kind of stuff. It just like what I thought we were gonna get. I thought you were gonna. Where are the other fucking Kang? He keeps saying, "See you soon."
Mm-hmm.
Well, where the fuck are they? We went through 2 seasons.
Right.
You're not even gonna foreshadow.
We've gone through COVID over the course of this.
Can you foreshadow another Kang? You just none of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was just like, you know what? These movies have nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think Renslayer's ever fucking come. I don't think we're gonna see that chick again. I think she's pruned and she's just gone.
Well, the impression I'm under, because the guy who had done Shang-Chi, who was going to do the next Avengers movies, left or was in leavened from those movies. And there's some question about whether or not they're going to still do the Kang Dynasty. I think that beginning with Deadpool 3, they're just going to build up the Secret Wars and just use the variant aspect and drop the Kang stuff to a large degree. There's been rumblings that they're going to replace Kang with Dr. Doom, which I do not approve of. But commit to the bit. Do Dr. Doom later on, or use Dr. Doom to get rid of Kang. Whatever you got to do, but do something more than just what they did with Loki. But I like that Loki, how they resolved him. I love the whole walk. I like the repeating of them getting annihilated when they would try to go down that gangplank over and over again.
Yeah.
And then he finally has the walk where he forms the horns and he finally gets his throne, but it's a throne of burden. Glorious purposes, I like to say over and over again.
How far out, to cut this in, you may want to patch it in somewhere later on.
I don't.
How Marvel fatigued out are you guys?
Oh, very.
And where? Where did it happen?
I'm like you see the dudes in the marathon that shit themselves and have to be carried across the finish line?
I planted a blog on that.
Me. Okay. Yeah. That's me.
Just spraying
I don't
want to
watch. I don't even like we were saying earlier. I haven't rewatched any of the movies in forever. Where we used to watch like.
Do you remember what movie it was though, or show or whatever, where you're like, oh man, I'm getting.
Yeah. Shang-Chi. It could have been Shang-Chi.
For me, it was Captain Marvel.
Okay.
And it wasn't because of any other shit that everyone's saying it's woke or it's Brie Larson or it wasn't.
Brie Larson seems like a very delightful person.
Dude, I enjoyed her performance.
I listened to her on an
Carol
episode.
Danvers,
She was
that's
on
Carol.
she was on one of the How Did This Get Made, and she just seemed like perfectly delightful. And she had a little blog for a while there. And she was nice on that.
To me, making Mar-Vell into a woman, and I know Fixit liked that part, but Mar-Vell was one of my favorite characters growing up in comics. And to me, as far as cosmic stuff, he's an icon like Captain America. You don't change him.
At the very least, have him in the first movie, and then have him like one of the
Even a kickback to what he was would have been fine. But you come on, now he's an old lady.
He's Annette Bening. And a villain, and the Supreme Intelligence at the same time.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end for me, I think.
One of my buddies, Ryan, he had the theory that what they should do is introduce the male Captain Marvel, and then in his dying, the power would transfer to Carol, and like she's a supporting character throughout the movie, and then at the end she has the hero up, because the actual hero that you thought was going to be in the movie, it'd be a nice little twist. Obviously, they didn't do that. Their little twist was dumb. It wasn't even a twist. It's just like, oh, okay, that happened. Yeah, so I feel you. I feel you on that, especially after, because that means that all that Starlin stuff we're never going to touch on. Or they're going to have to give it to somebody else at some point. Or how about this? Here's a problem that maybe the Marvels had. Maybe have the Marvels have them fight somebody from the Starlin stuff, or even somebody like, I don't think was that even a character in the comics they fought in the movie? Or was that like an original cinematic character that they pulled out of their asshole? Or some like super extremely.
You're talking about the Marvels?
I have not seen that movie yet.
Me neither. I don't think
but
anyone
I know
has.
who you're talking about.
It's some like super insignificant character that never did anything, right?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And I know
you're gonna spend $250 million on a movie and nobody knows who the fuck your villain
the
is.
majority of my Marvel knowledge is the cosmic stuff and the Thor stuff.
Yeah.
So
we borrowed your Annihilation copies to do the first podcast we did.
I mean, for me not to know and to be like, what the hell?
The MCU's Dar Ben is the villain in the Marvels. DAR-BENN.
Doesn't do a thing for you, does it? It doesn't mean a flirkin' thing. Honestly, for me, I think it was maybe Ragnarok, because I did not like all that humor. I did not like how he just seemed like Thor seemed like a bumbling incompetent, and like everybody else in that movie seemed to have their shit together more than him. Even Banner, even when he flopped onto the Rainbow Bridge, it's a funny moment, and he mostly has his head on straight.
So funny.
Yeah, that was good, but it was just too much humor, and I didn't like the direction they were going into. And then my first watching of Infinity War, I had problems.
Love that movie.
It's grown on me. I respect. It's just so hard for them to have juggled so many different stories, so many different elements all at the same time.
They did it great.
No, I'm saying they did it great. That's what impressed me going back and watching it. Is like, yeah, that was a Herculean task.
Earth is closed today. Is one of my favorite lines in all of the Marvel comic universe.
But I also saw where they were going with that one, and then of course Captain Marvel sucked. I hated Captain Marvel. And then when they get the end game, and that's when I could see, oh, they're retiring everybody. Fuck you. I've not invested 10 years in the MCU for you to fucking retire everybody that I fell in love with. If Robert Downey Jr.'s got to quit, that's fine. I'll tell you what else too. I don't like that he got a fucking kid. That kid pissed me the fuck off. I do not love you 3000. Those people were both fucking...
That's the name of this podcast, and it's got nothing to do with Thor. You're going to name this podcast I Don't Love You 3000, the Thor podcast.
Those people were both at least in their 40s, even in character, and they're supposed to come out with a kid within 5 years of the blip, and it's just so that you got that extra fucking stab in the gut when Tony dies.
He gave her that goop.
Yeah, and give her the fucking, I'll eat the hamburgers with you and all this kind of bullshit. It was just another fucking twist of the knife. It was cynical as fuck, and I didn't appreciate it. And also, they were too damn old to be making babies at that point. If you want to make babies, they should have done it 10, 15 years earlier. Fuck you. So I didn't care for that.
Some of that nanotech.
It's got a nano uterus.
And then they start all the fucking phase 4 shit. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so yeah. So touching on that. So Loki. We'll get back to Loki now. Okay. So tell me this. Right off the bat, Loki 1 versus Loki 2. Which one did you like better? I'm betting 1.
I think I probably liked Loki 1 better just because I thought the settings were really, really cool. The places they were going crazy. Wild. But I don't know. It's pretty close. Yeah. I liked Loki 2 a lot too.
There's a lot. You know, a lot of people don't like Loki 2.
It's heard that.
Very divisive. I don't know. But part of it was a lot of people didn't like how much Doctor Who was getting into their Loki, which I totally get.
But I'm not a Doctor Who guy, so I don't give a shit.
Another issue is that a lot of people hated Victor Timely, although that could be a fucking Jonathan Majors is a salter. I hate all the things he ever did retroactively.
He was a little annoying.
He was very annoying. Agreed. Yeah.
Prototype was really kind of annoying.
I totally think that Renslayer should just become Kang, and then that'll solve all their problems. Just let her be Kang. Done. Fixed.
They didn't see it. So you don't
Okay. Yeah, they know who Renslayer is.
No, they don't know.
No.
Renslayer was the person who was basically running the TVA. The black lady who was like the sort of girlfriend.
Ruin it for me. You don't have to watch it.
No. The black lady from the first season. She was
like an administrator.
She's Wilson's boss.
Yeah, the administrator.
But she's already turning
Mobius.
bad toward the end when she's having all the issues with Sophie and trying to kill. Doesn't she fucking prune Morpheus or Loki herself? Mobius. Yeah, Mobius. So anyway, they should just make her Kang and then it's fixed. No problem. Problem solved. They're making that seeming so much harder than it actually has to be. I don't think that they should stop doing the Kang story. I think they need to.
No, they gotta stop.
They need to wrap it up.
Oh yeah, I mean that's fine.
But they've spent too much time on Kang shit, not give me at least one movie that actually resolved that shit. Saying this is a person who's not seen Quantumania. I don't know how much that would pollute my interest in seeing Kang perpetuated. Yeah.
Then you would be like, it's time to wrap it up.
Okay, yeah. But I do agree with that. Ultimately, even though I think that they accomplished more in the first season, the vibe of season 2 was just kind of on my wavelength.
They were able to hit the ground right. There wasn't a lot of explanation in the second season.
Honestly, I feel like the second season is like a coda. It's like you had the first season and then the entire second season is just sort of like contextualizing, and it's like a bottle episode that explains everything from the first season and the second season. It doesn't feel like a season. It feels like it's like the end of the first season. You know what I mean?
I just dig the vibe of the show. I think they're pretty shows. I like the way they're shot. I like
really
the sets.
attractive. So well shot.
I love all the uniforms are just like, at first glance they look like normal uniforms, and you kind of look at them and you're like, I know I mentioned in our first Loki podcast, but like Loki's collar is sewn into his shirt, and once you see it once, you're like, oh, all of their uniforms are like a little off. There's something just weird about everything in the whole show, which I dig. And there's a cool like retro vibe to everything.
The aesthetic is gorgeous. I love it. I want to live at the TVA, man. Everything there is gorgeous, and most of that is practical. They built that shit.
Yeah,
you can tell a bunch of volume.
You can tell they built the cafeteria. You can tell they're not on a green screen.
Yeah, but of course everybody's bitching like, I'm watching a show and they're just sitting there eating pie. It's like you're the dum-dums. You don't understand that this means something when they're sitting there eating pie. They're not just eating pie, you assholes.
No, I want some pie.
I know, good looking pie too. Really, that extra green key lime pie.
Hate key lime pie.
Yeah, I like key lime pie. And key lime M&Ms are the fucking best. I was addicted to those things for a while. They put them out around Easter time.
I like the caramel ones.
So that's why I was gonna say, since nothing ever really ends up happening in this show, it's just like it's nearly just a standalone sci-fi movie. Like it's just a standalone sci-fi show, not movie, television show. You just watch season 1 and 2 of Loki. It's got some people and they vaguely reference some MCU stuff, but for the most part, it's just got Thor's not in it. It's not, you know what I mean? Like this, it's not.
But
they
like
don't go to Asgard. Hey, what episode did they go to Asgard?
Right.
They don't fucking go to Asgard. It's just none of this stuff.
Why, with all that traveling through time to save shit, why don't you save Asgard? You only exist because of an alteration of the timeline. Why can't you go a little bit further and alter that?
Because it just needs to be its own thing. And I thought it was a really cool 12-episode sci-fi show.
Yeah. And rewatching Ragnarok, like what happens with I'm trying to say Brimstone, my DC Surtur, yes. Like he says that it's his destiny to destroy Asgard, and it looks like Hela is throwing a lot of knives into him. So are we meant to believe that he dies while destroying Asgard? They're like mutually instruction kind of thing, or is he still out there somewhere?
Well, no, I think he says in the beginning of the movie, "I cannot die," because he has to. He has to fulfill Ragnarok. Yeah. But I'm assuming that's when he dies.
Okay,
could be.
Yeah, I saw Clancy Brown on a YouTube video recently. I was like, hey, right, that too. That guy. So one other thing too is while I like I can't think of anybody's names today.
Oh, and then Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston have great chemistry.
Yeah,
that's where when he was like he's trying to save his friends. I mean, he's talking about Mobius.
Yeah,
because they're great together. I'm like, this is just a buddy sci-fi cop show with Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, and that's all I need. I don't need it to tie into Marvel Universe stuff or anything. I don't care. I enjoyed the show. I liked both of them in the show.
I will say though, going into the second season, I preferred Ke Huy Quan. I really enjoyed OB in that show, and also just throwing out there, you did see Everything Everywhere All at Once, right?
No, I never saw
Still?
it. Yeah, still.
It's really good. You got to watch that one. It's a lot of fun, and given that it's also all about time and existence, and but by the way, throwing eternity in there, it kind of bothered me a little bit too.
When did they throw eternity
into Love and Thunder?
Oh yeah.
I just remember that too. It's like eternity really should be in, eternity or Destiny, eternity, right? Yeah, he should be in a Doctor Strange movie. It bothers me that he's in a Thor movie and he's not even like he's barely seen. He's just sort of a device. And also, is any like ultimate dimensional thing always going to involve people standing in water?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was that.
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
I guess that's a thing.
Everybody's going to be in water. Anything Infinity, Destiny, Eternity.
Just a real shallow.
Get used to like fucking what's it called?
They're all slightly flooded.
Gangrene and shit.
Yeah. You're trench foot.
Trench foot. Yes.
Hey, our co-hosts have to go. It's 5:04.
Okay, almost done. Almost wrapped up. I'll go on with a little bit you later on. And then finally, I went ahead and left Ragnarok at the top. Not because I think it's the best Thor representation, but just because that's the movie I would be most likely to want to watch again. I don't understand why people don't like Hela. I
Sucks.
Love Hela.
She's so hot. She's so...
That's fine. She is, but
hot.
all of her parts of the movie are the worst parts of that movie. I just want to get back to Sakaar.
Well, and that's why one thing I want to specifically mention with you, one thing that killed me with the Dark World is that they make a point of letting each of the Warriors 3 and Sif just sort of like, they have their little bitty moment and then they just go the fuck away, one after another. You see that it's like part of the plan was, we're saying goodbye to you guys in this movie. Then they bring them back to the third movie and then kill them all over again.
Slaughter them.
They hated those characters so fucking much, so clearly, going back to at least the second movie, that it's like they always had it out for them.
And how much better would Love and Thunder have been if the God Butcher could have butchered them?
Right. Well, I mean, Hela butchered them anyway, so they helped build her up.
No, she just threw the knives into him.
It would have been way more relatable, the gods he was killing, if he killed a bunch of
Thor's gods.
buddies.
But they were all gone. And it's like, what the fuck?
Well, in the shit where they cut Sif's arm off, like, maybe your arm's in Valhalla. I remember you taking exception to that joke. That was fucked up. And what's funny, too, is rewatching all this Asgard stuff, I see how thirsty Sif was for Thor the entire time. And he's just, like, sitting there waiting for, please notice me. I am into you. Please take me on. And he never does. He's into everybody but Sif. And then she's going to get her arm lopped off and end up hanging out with the chick that he actually wanted to hook up with, who was more likely to hook up with Sif and Thor. Just like, I don't know, they're just such contempt for Asgardians and all the Thor material in there. Were you in the Ragnarok episode?
I think I might have been, but I was sliced in.
Okay. So you did get to express, where would you rank the Thor movies, at least, the 4 Thor movies?
Ragnarok.
Number 1?
Number 1.
Speak into the microphone. I'm trying to not say it.
Ragnarok, Thor, The Dark World, and He Who Shall Not Be Named, which is Love and Thunder.
And you fix it, what's your ranking?
Peace out, Odin Force forever.
Ragnarok, Thor, and then the Dark Tower, whatever it is, and then
And you both have Idris Elba. I can see the confusion.
and everything else Thor has ever been in, and then Love and Thunder.
I'm gonna mix it up with my list. I'm gonna go Ragnarok, Thor, Dark World, Love and Thunder.
Yeah, that's a really bold choice you made there.
You said we're gonna rank these. I was like, oh, this is just the easiest ranking I've ever heard of my entire life.
So, and one more thing specific to Fix It: Thor worst franchise, or is Ant-Man the worst franchise? It's gotta be Ant-Man, right?
Oh, it's Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Ant-Man. I'd say Thor's franchise still might be better than Iron Man's franchise, but
really,
no, that's not.
That's
true.
not true at all.
I was just trying to say a hot take. I was to be a hot take.
Done?
Dun, 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 dun. Now you want me to rank the Disney Plus shows?
Not if you really watched them recently.
I would say the combo of Loki 1 and 2 are still the best combined Disney Plus shows. Nothing else is really touching that.
Yeah, but I'm more likely to rewatch Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Nah, you're not gonna rewatch that shit.
There were a few things I forgot to mention while we were talking about Loki Season 2. One is I really love the score. I think it's one of the best in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's a good thing, too, because I sat through the closing credits so many times to either get no stinger or a crappy one. I also really loved the ribboning effect as the reality was coming unspooled. It gave the show a sense of existential horror. I really wish there was more legitimate horror elements in the Marvel Universe. And the thing I did not like, or I got tired of, in almost everything that Tom Hiddleston has done within the MCU, he's done that deal where he lurches forward and then swings his head backward and then straightens back up again. Once or twice a movie, usually. Loki Season 2, so many times in every episode. If you made it a drinking game and then binge the season, you would die. Enough sayers. Billy Hines wrote, "Caution, contains opinions. For my money, no interest in more MCU or SW for that matter. Find it all boring at this point. In-game indeed." And this was for the new MCU Avengers episode, a quickie me and Mac did, basically exploring who could be the Avengers going forward when they finally start making Avengers movies again, and more to the point, how little we cared. Canoes wrote, "Thanks for Old Spine. I know this is going to be a great episode from the title alone." DC Dave wrote, "That art is so peak my time reading the Avengers. The art is beautiful, and I loved all those characters." Yeah, I did not read that period of the Avengers. I believe that was a Paul Ryan cover. It had Cap announcing a new team of Avengers with a bunch of profile pictures in the background. I wanted that type of image for the album art, and it was one of the only ones that they had for the Avengers. I thought they had more than that. I know the Justice League has a lot of those, going through photos and picking who's going to be in the new roster kind of things. Justice Society has a lot of them too. Not so many on the Avengers, curiously enough. Plus, that particular image featured a lot of the people that I wanted for my Avengers team: Black Knight, Hercules, Cersei, She-Hulk, the White Vision, Photon, obviously Cap too, but I'm not going to get that one. At least not Steve Rogers. So anyway, it was just sort of a coincidence that this happened to be the period that he read, but it, I think, is a period that Mac read, and maybe at some point we can get into that material. More on that in a moment. Eduardo E. wrote, "Whether I like some of them or not, whether they are successful or not, I think that superhero fatigue exists exists. At least the excitement of the past is partially gone. We have been at this for 15 years, and there's a dire need for a reboot, or at least have a way with the X-Men. Steve Bannister wrote, "The only MCU thing I'm interested in at this point is the Fantastic Four movie, and I have a feeling when they announce the cast, which apparently will happen once the SAG-AFTRA strike is over, my interest in that will shrivel and die too." And again, we're almost at the end of the year, no announcement yet. Lots of actors have been teased. We won't know until we know, obviously. Although most of the people they put forward have already done superhero things, I'm not super keen on them doing another superhero thing. Sometimes it works. Chris Evans is a fine example of that. But more often than not, it's difficult to associate the same actor with multiple characters, and they're usually better at one than the other. I can see Anya Taylor-Joy potentially as Sue Storm, but not with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. It's just weird to me. Too much of an age difference. I know that it's a founding element, but I know Pedro's supposed to be a lot of people's daddy, but I just kind of too icky. If they're going to go that way, I need an actor that I can believe to be a lech. Finally, RX or Rick's Farhan wrote, "I will expose and promote your Apple podcast and USA increase downloads, subscriptions, and listeners. Ratings, reviews, 100% safe and organic service. Can you try my service?" As somebody who actively courts disinterest in anything that we produce, no, I don't think we're going to need that. I guess it was supposed to, my cue was supposed to be the Steve Bannister comment, but the next episode of Marvel Superheroes has already been recorded. It's actually about comic books, almost exclusively about comic books, in fact. It's a good direction to go in. It's really got to be spearheaded by Max, since he has greater interest in talking about Marvel comics than I have these days. But we'll see how it goes, and at least next episode, we'll actually do a Marvel Superheroes comic book podcast. So our permanent Marvelite Maximus followers include Al Goodman, Coach Goody 421, Anthony Ias, Apple and Spotify podcast marketing experts. Again, these are all off of X. There's probably a majority of bots these days. Stolen in knowledge. Ayanayan, Bobby Adam Sonis, Brian Morris, Chris Parton, Christine Forster, Crazy Cool Retro, DC All-Stars, Podcast, D. Kilroy, Dushyant Tiwari, Elena Moriera, The Gory Hole Podcast, Jaker Momin, Jesse Baria, Johnny Utah, I'll take two hot dogs, Lauren Rikazuski, Legends Unmasked, Mark Tannerhauser, Nadia Moro, Nur Islam Official, Patricia Sowash, Paul Sharkey, Podcast Promotion, Pulp for Action, Read for Not, Robin Slim, Roxana Zarina, Tabitha Lavali, Thirsty's New and Used, Turb Jimkuf, Void Vibes, and The Wolf Updates. Keepers of the Favorites Flame include Alan Achenbach, Artificial Twins, Ascani Sun 22, Bill Spy Vinyl, Billy Hines, Capital Gain Income, Chris Dunford, Dave's Comic Heroes Blog, Derek WC, Jerry, Jim Lipit Photography, Kalish Joalamuki, Writer and Media in Charge, Kitos 2, Lori Miller Art and Music Creator, Mad Dragon, Manaus Makeko, Marvel Universe Online Project, Maxo, Nick Spence, Nucky 777, Chi Sakurabi Project, Rix Farhan, September Rains, Shanna Banana, Sean M. Myers, Surume, and Yama Yosi. Retweet frantic ones include Between the Pages blog, CH, Nathaniel Devon Mason Sanford, Relatively Geeky Podcast Network, and Talk Nerdy to Me. And finally, the Merry Marvel Marching Society. Got Billy Hines in there twice. Billy Hines, On My Way to Bluer Skies. Canoes. Chris Lydon. Fritzable, The Rainbow Knight. Divinity Rising. Ed Moore at Teal Productions. Eugene R. Hendricks, Voice Actor Home Studio. Gregory Litchfield. The Hammer Strikes. Random Geeky Stuff. History of Comics on Film. Iowa's Joe Is. The Irredeemable Shag. JMD Productions. Julia Raoul. Keith G. Baker. Ladies of Mischief Wrestling Fan Page and Gaming. Randy Caldwell. Richard Field. Satin Tights, a Wonder Woman podcast, Speaker of the House Kirk Spencer, Superbound, and Tony S. Endure and Survive.
The Marvel Superheroes podcast is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by Marvel Entertainment. All characters mentioned and audio clips employed are believed covered under fair use, with no infringement intended against their copyright holders. The views expressed in this podcast are assumed legitimate, truthful, and solely possessed by the speaker.